You go first. I'm only kidding. 3, 2, 1. Thrivesters, I am so excited for this guest. I've been talking about her for weeks. She's been on the podcast before. You were on the podcast once or twice.
I don't know, but I'm like, can you see how like excited I am? I don't know. I was just like so excited to talk to you
I was
today.
going to say me more. Well, why don't I introduce you? Thrivesters, I have the fantastic, fabulous Samantha Parker. Samantha, you want to tell everybody what you do?
Yeah, I like this Thrivesters. I'm gonna get that on a jacket, right? Do we have hats yet? Like, what do we
We
have?
no, we have to. Can we do trucker hats?
Oh, I love a trucker hat.
Oh, with the bumblebee and my logo. Done, 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 done.
Done. Okay, I'll be the first to purchase. Send me the link. But I am the Samantha Parker. I'm a social media manager and content creator. Essentially, content management is what that's evolved into. So we create content for businesses, companies, whatever, all the people doing things online who want a little bit of help. We film it, we edit it, we post it. And then I have my own podcast, The Samantha Parker Show, and a YouTube channel, The Samantha Parker Show. Everything's The Samantha Parker Show. But I
Everything.
talk about my journey through sobriety and ditching alcohol. And honestly, that is just, it's huge. It's huge for me.
Huge. So, guys, there's a number of reasons why I am excited to have Samantha on. First of all, she's a hot ticket and she's hilarious. Second of all, she's one of the realest people you will ever hear speak. Third of all, so Samantha made the bold move, like a year ago, year and a half?
So I'm like 14 and a half months sober.
Sober. So Samantha went off alcohol totally. And I remember, do you remember it was last summer? I was listening to her podcast. I was out walking, I was listening to her podcast, and I stopped in my tracks and I listened to it and I was like, wow, because I will be very honest. I envy you, Samantha, for having the guts and the dedication and the commitment to walk away from alcohol. I don't think this is my opinion now. I'm not a doctor. To me, there's nothing positive about drinking alcohol. Nothing, nothing. It's a toxin. Now, I say this knowing that my refrigerator is fully stocked
Mhm.
and I'm not ashamed to say it. I drank probably every weekend. Not a lot. I mean, I'm not like I was in college. But and I, it's just so interesting. And I am not willing to walk away yet. And I feel like I'm close. And I felt like I was close last year, and I've been following you. So tell us enough about me. Tell us, why did you decide enough was enough? And you don't need to get into any of the details. You can if you want to. And maybe tell us what your biggest struggle has been since you've made that decision,
Oh, well, that's loaded.
right?
Well, let's get out the rifle, the hunting rifle. Here we go. No. There were so many things that went into my, alcoholism. And I was a heavy drinker since 17. That's when I started drinking. And I don't think I'm like, I know exactly why I started drinking. I know when it got really bad, like the things that were happening in my life around like 20 and 21. But it never stopped. I never learned a healthy way to deal with the things I had been through. But yeah, I was a very high functioning alcoholic. You know me, I was working for you, man. Yeah, I always
By the way,
delivered.
yep. So Samantha used to do my social media, and we might revisit that again, but please continue.
Yes. But I mean, I never dropped the ball,
No, never.
or at least appeared, I was very like hard worker. My kids were always fed. I feel like I've had a really good life, but what people weren't seeing was like how much I was struggling behind all of that. And, alcohol was like that mask that I could put on. I could put on a drink and I could just like, it would all just go away. Like everything, would go away. And there was a lot of things that led to like that final moment of, no, I'm not doing this anymore. So many, so many. Someone was just asking me at a meeting I was in, they were like, hey, what like was your final moment in drinking? And I was like, oh, I wasn't prepared for that. But, there was just like so many things. So yeah, ultimately I said like enough of this bullshit. And you can look at it from the small things too. Like I was working with a health coach, wasn't losing weight because obviously I was lying about how much I was drinking. But even, I just turned 40, but I got sober at 39, and I know people are like, well, wait till you get 50 or whatever, but your perimenopause and all of those things set in right at that time. So, I had that puffy, bloated face. I looked like shit. I felt like shit, even though I was getting up and working out and I was doing all these things and I was weighing my food, so that was a huge factor as well. But just mentally, like, just the hell I was putting myself through.
You said something, by the way, if you're not following Samantha, the Samantha Parker on Instagram, you need to. You were talking about, it was something along the lines of, well, I can handle everything now because I'm not hungover. You know
Yeah,
what I'm talking about?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I
yeah.
I figure, I figure, I have figured out that everything is figure outable, really.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
live in this Lulu mentality that like I can literally do anything. I'm like, I haven't drank for over a year, and that was like the biggest vice for me. And everyone can look at their lives and Nancy, you're saying like you don't want to drink. I know you don't want to at all. Um, when people say they have the desire to, I know it's bigger than that. But if you can look at the biggest vice in your life and you can conquer it, you can fucking do anything. I'm like, we needed to put my daughter into school fast recently. And I was like, well, where are we going to get the money for this? Because we want to just pay for it full when we want to get it moving. And I was like, we'll figure it out. And we did. I feel like anything is figure outable. My husband accidentally had his tax deduction set like super high. Like, and now we owe like way more because I planned for our taxes. And I was like, no big deal. We'll get that. Everything just feels like so much different. And situations like that would be like high stress. You're just like, oh, okay, I can deal with this.
It's interesting because I would assume that one, not necessarily you, but one drinks to manage their stress. And when you don't drink, you have less stress.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
One of like the most like mind fucking games ever. And when you get away from it, you're like, what? Because you were drinking because you were stressed. You were drinking because you were happy. You were drinking because you were sad. You were drinking to figure out life's problems or to celebrate life's victories. And ultimately, like it was doing all of the opposite for you. So it's like when you're drinking, your body is under stress, you're mentally under stress, and you're causing a lot of stress in your life. Like think of all the drama. Everything was always just such a big fucking deal. Like I have to be honest. Everything was just such a big deal to me all the time. And now I'm like, oh, what? And it's like pouring alcohol is like pouring gasoline into a trash can fire. And you
yep.
might even have a little tiny fire. You're like, I just started this little tiny fire over here. It's totally fine. And you're like, just kidding. And I feel like that's what alcohol does. You're like, let me just explode that weird not issue in my life.
So if if we know that we're better when we don't drink it, and if we know that we're going to be able to handle things better when we don't drink it, why do you think so many of us, and I'm not, you know what, I will not allow the excuse that marketers are targeting women. I will not allow that excuse. I get it, the mommy juice and, and all that stuff and how the advertisers are advertising it. But like I know I'm not gonna feel good the next morning. I know I'm probably gonna feel like crap after the first or second glass of wine. Why do we do it?
So for me, I just wanted that numb out so bad. I wanted it so, so bad. And maybe you can compare it to something else in your life, even like, when people just like really want the goddamn cookies, it's like they'll sit in their car and they'll hide the fast food they're eating.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or, maybe running excessively, like, and they get that numb. I wanted that so bad. Nancy, I wake up and I think about it every day.
And alcohol.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I do.
yeah, yeah. That's not surprising. So I was on Weight Watchers for a very long time. For me, it's buffering. Which is another word for numbing out. So you're buffering between yourself and your reality. There's a buffer, and it's alcohol or the cookies or the excessive working out or whatever. I just forgot what I was going to say. I can't believe I just forgot it. Oh, something about when I was on Weight Watchers. I can't remember. You said you think about it every day. Oh. So I used to go to this really great Watchers meeting, and the teacher she used to call people who weren't at the meetings civilians. And she would say, oh, no, no, they're civilians. They go through the day and they don't think about food. But everybody in that room, that's their buffer. That's what they use to buffer. So they think about it all day long. They have to plan for it. It's called food noise. They have to plan for it. They have to plan for how to get around it. They plan their calories. They measure their calories. And it doesn't ever go away. And that's what she was trying to get people to understand is you're never going to wake up and not think about it. You're not
No.
wired that way. And I think that's okay. I mean, I think that's okay,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just something that I know that every single day I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna deal with this. But you know what else is cool? And I was just thinking about this morning. I was like, no matter how my day is, I know I'm already gonna win.
I love
Because every
that.
day, like I know I'm not gonna drink. And I'm like, I already know like I've won the day before I even start it.
That's amazing. I'm writing that down. I know I'm going. My day is I know I'm going to win. Um, so tell me about what's better about your life without alcohol.
Just the peace that I find the peace in every single day. So, it's easy like to make time and intention, like to go for a walk. Like I always think about where you live. Like it looks like it appears like from social media that you can walk out and you're in the woods,
Mhm.
and it's like you can intentionally find that. But I feel like I just get that peace every day now without even intentionally finding it. I'm like, oh, everything's okay. But I have to tell you, Nancy, it's not easy. Like it's a fight. I feel like I hate saying this and I've said it in my TikToks a lot, but I feel like my body count this last year is huge. There's like so many people that I just had to block them. And I'm finding, that first year of sobriety, I was like really focused on like me not drinking. And so I was like, just don't drink today. And then I also didn't want to bother all the people in my life that drink. I didn't want to upset them. I wanted to make sure like I was still cool, like everything was fine. I could go on the trips, go on the places. And this year I'm like, why am I doing that? Why would I do that? I'm like, have you ever like thought about accommodating me? Like what if maybe we did something else? And nobody's going to, because they're still stuck in their own addictions. And you know what I've had to face that's been really hard the last like couple weeks is I realized that was me. Like I would have never made an accommodation for someone else because the only thing I gave a shit about was my fun time of drinking.
Yeah, that's a tough realization. So when you say make an accommodation, do you mean like do you mean like there's no alcohol at the party, or do you mean like what do you mean? Give
Like,
me,
what if
can
we just
you?
did something else? Like, what if
Right.
we,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
if we just
Yeah.
did something else? Like, I
Yeah.
don't care. Like, if you want to go to dinner and you have a couple drinks, awesome. But
Right.
would it kill us to,
Go for
um,
a walk or right.
yeah, like, why can't we do something else?
Yeah. That happened to me when I was losing weight. I lost a ton of weight many, many years ago. I lost a ton of friends too, but were they really my friends? Like I'd say, oh, if can we maybe not go to dinner and instead go grab a coffee or instead go for a walk or whatever? What I realized that might be similar similar but not the same to what you're talking about is it wasn't me. It was the activity. So if they weren't willing to do something different with me, then they weren't really my friend. They were more a hangout buddy or a go to an expensive dinner buddy or whatever. And that
Yeah.
was hard for me.
Yeah. Because mine is just, this exact same thing, but it's like I'm realizing, oh, like we're only friends because of the drinking.
Yeah, that's tough. That's really tough.
Mhm. So, people listening, I'm like, quitting drinking alcohol changes your life. Like, but I'm going to tell you it changes your life in ways that you might not be ready for.
Okay, so that's a great point. And actually, do you remember the name of the podcast that you just did? Was it 1 year no drinking? It was like a recap of, was it 6 months no drinking? It was a while ago. I really should have looked it up before here. But you talked about this. You talked about how, here I am, I'm checking in. It's 1 year later. Maybe it was 6 months later. I don't remember.
No, it was 1 year. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was really kind of cool. That was it. So Thrivesters, if you're thinking about how your life will be different, can you see this thing? So if you're not watching on YouTube, so I have this new computer, and when I move my arms, it
I
thinks
was
I'm
like, I
raising
didn't
my.
do that, I swear.
No, it's my computer. So when I move my arms or talk with my hands, it makes the thing so funny. Anyway, um, you kind of recapped the struggles, the wins, everything. And I remember I might have pulled over when I listened to this one. I might have pulled over. Are you comfortable talking about the moment that you went to the convenience store?
Yeah, that was the one and only time I have to tell you guys that I was like, this is it, I'm relapsing. And in my head, I wasn't thinking I was relapsing at all. I was at a pool party and it was the beginning, like, so I live in the desert here in Utah. So it was like the beginning of pool season, so it was probably like April, to be honest, you guys.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and everyone was at the pool. It was my friend's birthday. There was cakes, and I could tell like the drinking was just really starting to escalate. And I realized like, oh, I couldn't, have a conversation with my one friend. I couldn't talk to my other friend. And I was like, ooh, like I got itchy. I was like, I was trying to do different things. Like I sat in the bathroom for like 20 minutes. I was sitting in the sun, then I was watching the sunset, and I was like, oh, I gotta go. I'm like, I have to go. It's one of like the tools in my little sobriety tool belt is like just leave. And I was like, I'll just go for a drive and it'll reset me. So I swear to God, I blacked out. I'm like, I don't know where to drive. And I found myself sitting in front of a Maverick, which is, they're like a convenience store chain. So I'm sitting in front of Maverick and I'm like, I'll just go in and get a water because I didn't have my water. And I was like, no, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in and I'm going to buy two tall boys of Truly, which I don't even drink that. I've never drank that shit. I'm like more of like a 2 to 4, 5, 7 bottles of wine. No, I'm more of a 2 bottles of wine kind of girl. Um, but I was gonna go in and I was gonna buy those 2 bottles or those 2 cans of Truly, and I was like, I'll drink them in the car, and then I'll just throw the cans away here at the gas station. So more great logic, right? Let's drive like pretty heavily buzzed now. I'll go back and then I'll be fine staying. And I was like, cool. And I remember I had my card in my hand and my ID, and I was walking in that store, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I like immediately got back in my car and I sat in that car forever. And I was like, I was calling my sponsor. I was doing the things I was supposed to do. Nobody's answering the phone. So I had to work it out myself.
Mhm.
But
Why do you, well, sorry, go ahead.
oh no.
Why do you think it was? So, a couple of things. You said you couldn't talk to your friend, like you couldn't talk to this person, you couldn't talk to this person because they were so buzzed, or
Yeah,
because you, okay.
yes. Because the drinking had like passed the,
Mhm.
where you're like, huh?
Right. You're like, that's not funny. Like why do they think that's funny? So, why do you think it was because that party was getting out of control? Like, why do you think it was that particular day? Any idea?
I think it's stuff that I used to, I'm an air quote here, love. It's like the pool, the drinks, lots of food, loud music, fun. And again, I'm air quoting here, but it's like once that fun, so within an hour or two, that fun is going to end for everyone. They're going to be extremely, who knows what. I know my husband took an Uber home that night, and I can tell you he was not in a good place. Um, but it's like, that fun, that little window of like, I want to be able to talk to another drunk person. Like, what was that? Because it's like, I only wanted that little window, because then I would have been hungover for 2 or 3 days.
I wonder if it's like you're kind of like grieving your life. Like I miss that part of my life. I don't miss that whole life where I was drinking,
Yeah.
but I miss that. And you're kind of grieving it. And you're like, oh, maybe I can just go back for a little while, right?
Yeah, because that to me was like comfort and that was love. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
now these people love me and these are my people and blah, blah, blah.
No. So tell me how, let's talk about boundaries. So when people would ask you, what do you feel like I'm just totally hammering at you when
I'm good.
people,
I'm good, girl.
okay. When people would say, how come, what don't you want to drink? Well, like what, because I want to give people the tools to, especially in the summertime, this is going to air next week, to be able to say, no, thanks. Like, how did you, like, when people would try to get you to drink, what would you say?
I've been like, okay, so because I healed out loud is basically what I say. Like I healed out
Mm,
loud. I spent the first 8 weeks in total isolation, didn't want to tell anyone, and then I just blasted it on the
you
internet.
did. You
I was
did.
like, I'm 8 weeks sober. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Da 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 da. I was in that moment, I was in a lot of shame and guilt. But because I just blasted it, like nobody ever has come to me and been like, oh, just have a drink, Sam. Like never. There's been different events I've obviously been at where they're trying to have me a cocktail, and I'm like, oh no, there's meetings for people like me. And people, they laugh. So
Yeah.
I've never, and if people are peer pressuring you, like, oh, that is fucking insane.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
To be like, I'm an alcoholic, I'm working this program, I'm this far sober. They need to like look at their goddamn life. But I know it happens. I know it does. And I'm not going to say I was ever above it in my drinking time because I wanted other people to drink with me. I wanted to make sure that like I didn't look like the drunk.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think because we're a little older, when you're younger, I think that happens a little bit more. Like, people are like, "Oh, come on, come on." Like, there's plenty of times I go out and I say no thanks, I'll have a club soda or whatever. And I can't remember recently anybody being like, "Oh, what's wrong?" But what I do know are there are some people. that if it's like midweek, I'll say to myself, like, I can't go hang out with them tonight because they're,
Yeah.
and I don't want to wake up and feel gross the next morning. And that's,
They're pushers.
that's,
I was a pusher. Yeah, I was a pusher.
yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
or it's that whole, that's the social, that's the event. Like, that's, what do you mean? Of course, we're going to stay here for 3 more hours and have, excuse me, 3 more cocktails. I love that. Healed out loud. That's great. Well, you do everything out loud, so it's actually not surprising,
There's a
right?
lot of things you guys don't know about me.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot I don't know about you, and even what I do know is fascinating and fantastic. Okay, hold on. I'm going to go back to my notes. So you feel at peace. That's really amazing. What would you tell someone who thinks maybe that they're ready to make that commitment?
I guess you really just have to look at where you're at, you know? If you think you're ready to make that commitment, you are ready. So if you've been thinking about like, hey, I need to cut back, or you're thinking about doing it, like Nancy's fucking ready, guys. Nancy's ready. She just doesn't want to do it yet. She
So
wants it
funny.
so bad. Yeah.
It's funny. I said to Danny maybe like a month ago, he's so funny. I said, so hon, I think I'm gonna stop drinking. He goes,
Yeah.
okay. That was the extent of the conversation. I'm like, okay. I'm like, so a couple days later, I'm like, you want to talk about that all? He's like, no, because here's what's interesting. And then I want to move on to other stuff. I mean, I know I invited you on because I'm so impressed and empowered and motivated by your journey. And I want everybody to be able to hear it. But I want to talk about other stuff too. So I would call him a civilian. There are people out there that can have one cocktail and no problem. They don't, that's it. They're done.
Mhm.
I could have one cocktail. I can. I've done it. Very, very hard for me. Very hard
Yep.
to stop after one. So for me, I just don't start. It's easier for me to just not start in the first place. So, Thrivesters, if that's you, you might just not want to start in the first place. If it's hard to stop and you know what's going to happen, just don't start, right?
Yeah, and really like so if you'd reverse that situation, and your husband came to you and he's like, well, I'm gonna stop drinking, like for me, that would have like set me off. I would have been like, why? You know, because it's virtue signaling at its finest, like if you look it up. But
Well,
like I need them to match me so that I don't look bad, you know? That would have like sent me through like a major tailspin.
yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. So, and I know you talked about this a little bit on the podcast. You made this massive, massive life change, and I know he's been supportive. Has he like, did you sit down and talk to him about it? Did you come back after your first meeting? Like, how did that conversation go?
Yeah, so for those who know my story, I came home really drunk on a Sunday from a pool party. My son made some comments too. He had a home health nurse there, my son. I was trying to talk to the nurse, I was drunk, and my son just had COVID. He was getting like IVs because he'd been really sick, which everyone's probably like, and so you're out at a pool party? Yeah, okay, like listen.
The nurse was there. The nurse was there. It was fine.
Totally fine. And my husband and so I drove home drunk. My husband was pretty up. He was like, why did you drive home that drunk? Why didn't you just call me? But trust me, you guys, he's drove home drunk a lot too. But um, anyway, so I'm talking to this nurse, and the nurse is like, I walk out of the room and she goes, what's wrong with your mom? And my son goes, oh, she's just drunk again. And that was the moment where I don't know, like I like freaked out. And I'm sitting in my garage, I'm hysterically crying because you're drunk, and my husband's like, hands me the phone, and he has my uncle on the phone. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And my uncle's like, I hear you're having some troubles. And I was like, what's happening right now? And I was like, I can't drink anymore, is what I said to him. And that's the last time I ever had a drink.
Your uncle has been in AA for years, right?
Yes, I think he's
Yeah.
20 or like 30 years
Well,
sober.
well, I didn't know that it was your husband that handed you the phone.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. What a, I'm going to get choked up. What an incredibly kind, effective way to get you to get help. I mean, that's incredible. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Good
Yeah,
for
and I
him.
don't know where like the awareness came in, you know what I mean? Because I was drunk. So like some of the like I don't know if I was like, I need to talk to someone. I don't really, do you know what I'm saying?
Mm. Yeah, I do. I do. I
Yeah.
do. Yeah, I do.
I don't know.
So,
I just know I was all of a sudden on the phone and I was like, oh shit.
mhm. Did you ever consider, so it's a movement, or for lack of better words, called moderation management. I don't know if we've talked about it.
Listen, Nancy, I've tried all the
No.
things.
It's a Nancy what?
Listen, Nancy, I've tried all the things. I spent a year and I would tell people that I had reevaluated my relationship with alcohol and it was
Alcohol.
like
Yeah,
so good. Yep.
didn't work for you.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Years and years and years ago, I talked to someone about that. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? So what this is, Thrivesters, is if you don't want to or feel that you need to go all in and in total abstinence, there's a movement. It's called moderation management. It's where you moderate your intake of alcohol. You set limits. Yeah, it's kind of like to me, it's kind of like Weight Watchers for alcohol. It's like, well, I will only have 3 drinks, or whatever. And that works for a lot of people, and I would think that for many, many people it doesn't. So this is for people who don't want
I,
to go all in and go to meetings and
yeah.
or grind
I'm
it out.
Yeah, I'm absolutely not a fan of like those things. There's no, if you have a problem with your drinking, like you're already like you're an alcoholic. And so when you're like, hey, I'm putting all these limits on it, because I did that for years. And the mental obsession to
Mhm.
only go out to dinner and have those 1 or 2 drinks. But as soon as you have those 2 drinks, you've already dropped like your cognitive abilities, your prefrontal cortex has been affected, your decision making is affected. So I would sit there and I'd be like, 2 drinks, 2 drinks, 2 drinks. And the next thing I know, I'd be like, it's fine, 3 drinks, 3 drinks. And the next thing I know, I was taking shots. So you guys, I tried to manage it. And there are times, I bet you right now, I could walk over to a restaurant. There's actually one like right here. It's like a wine bar that just opened. I could have 1 drink and I could walk out. But I guarantee you within a few months, I would be right back to drunk Sam.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen. So what are you doing with all this?
I'm very passionate about this.
Well, I believe that this is going to be your mark. I told you this when went public. I said, this is going to be your jam. Like you are going to help so many people.
I know,
'Cause
Nancy, it's gotten embarrassing. Like I go get coffee and the girl's like, oh, I already wrote your name down. I know who you are. And then I get coffee here today and she's like, I was just listening to your podcast. I'm getting on a flight and they're like, I'm 5 days sober. And I'm like, what's happening?
that is awesome. That is awesome.
But I'm also like so embarrassed. It's something
I think it's great.
amazing.
I think so.
I have moments where like I sit in my house in the silence and I cry because I'm like, God, this is a tough one that I put on my shoulders, that you put on my shoulders, but I'm like so grateful that I'm able to help so many people. But I have to tell you, Nancy, sometimes it's so embarrassing.
I think it's great. I hope that someday it won't be embarrassing for you, and instead you'll feel pride, because that's what you should
Yeah,
feel. You
I
should.
do. I feel both, but you have to admit it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I get approached a lot, you know. I'm
Well,
like,
you're a well-known public figure in your town.
well, that's true. I do. That's right. Yeah. So what are you doing with all this time? I would imagine you have a boatload of time
Yeah,
now.
and that's the biggest one that people, will ask me questions or that people come to me with like concerns. Especially, and we talk a lot about this in AA as well, like especially, and me too, I had to like figure out what do I do with my time because I wanted to fill it with drinking. Um, but you get to like actually live your life now. Because think about it, it's like you're coming home and you're just drinking. Like, what is that? Like, if you could step back and just have a moment of like cognitive clarity for anyone who's struggling, with alcohol or addiction, like, what is that? Like, you're just drinking, and now it's like I can go for runs, I can spend alert and awake time with my children. I can do fucking puzzles. Like you could do anything you want, and that's what people don't realize. And it did take about like 7 months for like my brain to like fully like heal, to be honest. And I can remember like the exact moment when I was like, oh my God, I can think so differently now. But you'll be able to like think through problems. You could launch like stuff at work. Like it's crazy. And there are times when I find myself where I'm like, oh, I don't have anything to do. And I'm like, God, alcohol would be really nice right now. But it's like, dude, I don't know, do something else. There's so many things you could do.
Awesome. Oh, so tell us about your running. Okay, tell us about your running progression. Because I remember when you first started, you're like, so, okay, Thrashers, Samantha will take her GoPro with her or whatever. I don't know if you're holding your phone or it's on a selfie stick, but from day one, you're like, I'm going to go out and run a mile, or I'm going to go out and run 2 miles. And you'll be like, okay, 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 all right. And, and you would go and you would see the whole thing. And now you're like casually, you're like, okay, I just did a 10K and now I'm going to go climb this mountain. And now, so tell us about that.
Yeah, I started running like a month before I got sober, and I remember I couldn't even run for like a minute straight. And running's still hard, you guys. You know, running's like one of those top elite things where I'm like, this is fucking hard. Um, but I did take up running, and I feel like again, it's sometimes you just gotta trust in God's timing. You know, it's like, why am I taking up running? And even my health coach was like, maybe you shouldn't run, like stick with the weightlifting plan. And I was like, for some reason, I just am being called to this, but it saved me, you know. There's a lot of times I would run and I would cry, and it just puts you in a totally different perspective. And then also, I think I didn't know it at the time, but I needed to be able to prove to myself that I could do something difficult, you know? And so, like, running went kind of hand in hand with my sobriety. And there's a lot of people like on TikTok, you'll even see them. There's like a direct line from like sobriety to running.
Interesting.
hmm because it's like you want to challenge yourself to do something you didn't think you could do. And also there's just a lot of like clarity that comes, you're out there running, you're struggling so much. And so I end up in these like interest, like I think through so many things when I run. But I have to tell you, like those first like few months, I just would run and cry. Like I would cry like so hard. If people saw me, they'd probably like, what the hell is this? What's going on? Because I'm heavy breathing, you know?
And
But
like,
now,
and
yeah,
ugly crying. Yeah. So what do you
yeah.
think you were crying about?
For a long time it was like the shame and guilt, like, oh, I can't drink. And I want to go back and just tell that girl, be like, what? Like, you can't drink? Like, what? That was like such a big concern, was just, why is this happening to me? Like, why can I not be a drinker? And now I'm like, why would I want to be a drinker?
Let's pause for a minute. So the question was, why would I want to be a drinker? Well, it's, girl, you got some nuggets out there. You got some nuggets floating around out there.
I know, I feel like I'm coming at you hard. Sorry, Nancy.
No, it's great. I love it. I'm just trying to process all of it. Oh, I forgot what my other thought was. It was about running the runners. I was thinking about the runners high. I can't remember. I can't remember. That's okay. I'm sure it'll come back to me. You were running. Okay, so what would you say to 17-year-old Samantha who was getting ripped at parties in high school or after high school?
Oh, I just wanted to be loved. I don't know why, but I just wanted to be loved. For some reason, alcohol came in and it was like comforting. It takes down that guard. It took down that thinking process where I was like stuck in all of that. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, I'm an amazing person with alcohol. And of course, I found a lot of love, not the right kind of love, but you find a lot of guys, you find a lot of different things to fill that void. And I don't know what I would tell her because, Nancy, it was like all part of my journey. It was where I'm supposed to be. It sucks that that's like what I filled that void with. And I do remember like, healthier options were presented to me. But it was like alcohol was the thing that like, it really just made all of that go away.
Oh, I just remembered. It was, you talked about shame and guilt. It's interesting. We have in my house, one of the things I'll say to Danny is we don't shame or blame here. Like we don't. He'll be like, well, it was or he'll be talking about someone else. And I'm like, no, no, no. We don't shame or blame. We don't shame or blame is what we don't do that. Because think about how unproductive an emotion that is. Well, and we do it all the time. We shame ourselves, shame and blame all the time, especially when it comes to children, I think. Not that we're shaming our children, but the way they're thinking and the way they're processing, it's shame and blame. And as they grow up and they're like, well, it wasn't me, it was my brother, it was my sister. Like, no, 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 it doesn't matter who it was. Doesn't matter who it was. Let's just solve for what happened. And that's something that we joke about it now. Danny will be like, well, we don't shame or blame here. If I'll be like, and he's right. We really try not to, because that's what leads to all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to see if there was anything else about alcohol that I wanted to ask you. Was there anything that I didn't ask you that you thought I was going to?
No, I was just here, open conversation.
Open conversation. As there. So, Thrivesters, we're going to switch gears a little bit. I remember I was listening to Samantha's podcast. I'm going to link to it in the show notes, obviously. And you were talking about that used to be a home health aide, certified home health aide, right? CNA,
Yeah. Yes, I was. And I was working hospice. We were just talking about this.
hospice.
Hmm.
And what I wanted to ask Samantha was what something along the lines of, so you've seen live how you live now or how you live in your 50s or your 60s or your 40s impacts your quality of life in your 70s, 80s, or 90s, right? Or late. So, did you ever meet someone who was getting ready to, I call it Passover, um, that said, boy, I really wish I had taken those meetings?
No, and a lot of times too, people just didn't know what they were supposed to do next. I worked in oncology at the hospital too, and I remember that as a CNA, they always gave you the shit jobs. So it's like you had to get their stuff and like wheel them out to the curb. And I remember sitting with this guy once who's had a big impact on my life. And he goes, they just told me I'm supposed to go home and die. And he goes, what do you think I'm supposed to do? And I was like, I didn't have an answer for him. So a lot of times people just don't know what to do. They're like, well, what do I do next? And I think it's because we're constantly like, oh, next, I'll hit that income milestone, or next I'll do this, next I'll do that. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, Nancy, but I think, you got to think about that. Like if I was told I was going to die next week, like how would I live my life? Like what would be next?
So I talked about this on last week's podcast, and what I talked about was rest isn't a reward, it's a requirement. And
Mhm.
how, particularly as women, we, many women, we assign our value or we tie our value to our output and what we did that day, our list, our checklist, our jobs, whatever the case may be, not who we are, what we do. So if you think about it, if your identity is tied to what you do, what happens when you can't do anything anymore or when you're not doing anything more? You're just in this like vortex, right?
Mhm. You know, and everyone's replaceable. So it's like, why don't we just live more for ourselves?
Well, you're preaching to the right person. I talked about this. I talked about this last week about, if you want to take 5 minutes and sit in your car before you go in the house, take the 5 minutes and sit in your car before you go in the house.
I always do. I always
Oh,
do. And it's just like, it's time for me in the garage. Like I always take 5 minutes and sit in the garage before I go in. Because
are you on your phone? What are you doing?
yeah, so I will do a couple of things. So usually I'll make sure I've answered all the messages I want to answer for the day.
Mhm.
Um, just respond, like I'll check my emails, and then I probably will scroll TikTok for a few minutes because I enjoy it. Like,
Yeah,
but not I have to make content moment,
right,
just like I'll
right.
enjoy it.
Yep.
And I try and just like come to a neutral position before I go inside. Because usually my husband's home, my kids are home when I go home, typically. And I don't want to come in and just be like, oh, I still have all these things to do. And it's not like, I want to come home and I want to be home. That's why I don't work from home anymore. I haven't worked from home for several years, is because like, I just want to come home and I want to be home.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, but yeah. So you got yourself a beautiful studio. I love how you decorated it. It's
There's
fantastic.
nothing behind me.
Well, no, no, no. I'm not being, I mean, when you live out loud, you were like, I'm going to do this, and here's what I'm going to do this, and you did all the befores and afters, and
Yeah. I just moved offices. So there's like, literally, there's nothing in here, but
oh,
it's
that's
mostly
funny.
glass. It's like all glass around me.
Oh, you used to have a bunch of exposed brick and stuff like that, didn't you?
Yeah, I moved to a new space. So I moved to a really large co-working space. I have my own office, so this is my office, but like we have like right over there, there's like two podcast rooms. It's like
Cool.
it's so fucking cool. I have so much space here.
That's great. That's great. Um, okay, so back to the CNA thing when people were approaching their end of their life. Um, okay, so this is why I think it's so important with who you surround yourself with, because at the end of the day, who's going to be there? So, what was that like for you? And I know this is coming out of left field. What was that like for you to see people who maybe didn't have anybody, or who, you know, just there was maybe one person? Like, what was that like? Like, what was that like?
No, it was so different. So if I can, because I worked home health hospice too after I worked in oncology. And sometimes you go to people's houses and it's like they had just put dying grandma or dying person in a room, never went in there, just the aide came and, cleaned them up and left. And so it's like you either had that where it's like nobody even gave a shit. Or you would have people that were just surrounded by so much love, so much like, they were doing as much as they can. And I saw that in the hospital too. Like some people were just in there alone dying and some had like full family and life. So, you can kind of tell how people lived, based on like where they end up. And I know people get wrapped into their own lives. Like I just went and visited my grandma. She's 88. And I was like, I gotta just drive up here more and see her. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I get very wrapped up in my own weekends and my own things
Well,
because
you
I need
also have,
time.
you have a
Yeah,
family and career and all
yeah.
that stuff. Yeah. Um, so that I want to repeat what you said. You can tell how people lived. That is that is such a nugget. I think you can tell how people live physically as well as how they lived emotionally or in their relationships.
Yeah.
And I just listened to Mel Robbins podcast, as you know. Love me some Mel. And she said the three things that will help you live a healthier, longer life. One is exercise. Two was less scrolling on your phone or schedule downtime away from your phone. And the third was really, really nurturing the relationships. And same thing with the Blue Zone. If you read about the Blue Zone, they talk about, yes, a lot of it's the food and minimizing alcohol, but mostly it's about relationships in these communities where people live in these communities. So when the reason I'm pulling this in is because I feel like if you don't weed, my friend has a phrase, you got to water the garden. If you don't water the garden now in your 40s, 30s, 50s, 60s, when you get there, there's going to be no garden. You're going to be all alone. So that's with your friendships, with your health and your fitness, with your choosing what you put in your mouth, choosing what you put in your mind. And you saw that firsthand. That must have been really hard. It must have been hard.
I don't know. I think it gave me a lot of like emotional maturity at such a young age. To be honest. I was like, wow, there's like a bigger picture for all of us. And also it made me realize like dying and stuff, it's like it's not that big of a deal. Or like, I'm like, oh, we're all gonna die anyways. Like I just don't see like the doom and gloom in it.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, like I still feel like I have so much to do. I was thinking about the other day when I was driving, I was like, I'm not done yet. And that's a really cool space to be in.
It's awesome.
I haven't been there for years and I was like, I'm not done yet. I had a friend who just passed away and her funeral was, I think, like 2 weekends ago. But she passed away just like unexpectedly. But it was so beautiful. There were so many people there. Like you couldn't even like, it was hard to get in the doors and like walk in. And I was like, God, she just touched so many people and was such a beautiful soul. And I'm like, if you can take away little nuggets from people who lived really beautiful lives, it's like just, love each other and just show up for each other.
Each other and show up for each other. It's not that hard, right? So you said I have a lot left to do. What do you have left to do?
I think I'm supposed to help as many people as I can get away from alcohol. And sometimes I'm like, again, I'm like, I have these conversations with God and I'm like, why is this happening to me? Like, why am I the one to do it? And I'm like, why am I the strong person here? But God, if I could, you know, I'm trying to think. I don't like to tell other people's stories, but, even just, I'll keep it vague. I had someone reach out to me recently and they're like, I need to stop drinking. And they did. They were like physically dependent on alcohol. But she just said, would you meet me in the parking lot at AA? Would you tell me which meeting you went to? Doesn't know me from Adam. Had no
Oh, she
idea,
doesn't know you.
and no, does not know me. Just reached out to me, said been watching my videos, and I was like, I absolutely will do that. I will do
Mm.
that. And now, I've seen her. She's in the program. She'll do great. But, I'm like, if that's what I'm supposed to do in life, like I've got more people to help.
That is amazing. Think about the power of social media.
Yeah.
Because Thrillsters, I'm here to tell you, you listen to her podcast, you are with her. Like there is not a lot of filters.
Well, you know how earlier I was like, it's almost embarrassing, like I keep running into people, but then, if we come full circle here towards the end of your podcast, I'm like, I'm so grateful. But there is that piece because, there still is some shame and guilt there from how much I drank and that I can't, air quote, be a normal drinker.
Hopefully with time that'll get less and less. I mean, You
Mhm.
know, everybody's got a vice. Everybody listening has one.
Yeah.
Everybody. Could be the shopping habit. Who knows, right?
Yep.
Okay, so this is a question I ask everybody. What is describe for me what your definition of living a life where you thrive? What does that mean to you?
Ooh, that's great. I think it's just being able to navigate different situations, right? Because I know a lot of people want to be like, oh, I want to wake up every day and be like happy and excited. And I'm like, okay, but what if you wake up today and you got really bad news? You know, maybe someone passed away. But it's like, how can you actually thrive through that and not let it just completely bury you and lose yourself in the process? So I think, living a life where you thrive, it's like being able to wake up every day and be like, okay, like today might be shit, but like today might also be really, really good. So I think we need to learn to thrive in the shit and the glory. That, yeah,
Yep.
and just being okay with like both sides. Because, I had the realization years ago that I wouldn't know how great life was if I didn't know how bad it could be.
Wow. I wouldn't know how great life was if I didn't know how bad it could be. You like these are nuggets left and right. You're like the
Apparently, yeah, I'm a Pinterest board.
very walking Canva graphic, quote graphic. Um, oh man, I just forgot it again. Learn something. Oh, so I have this saying. I didn't make it up, but this really guides me through everything. It's everything is temporary. The bad times, temporary. The good times, temporary. So enjoy the good. And when you're in the bad, just understand that you'll get through it eventually. Like everything's temporary. So that has its good points and its not so great points. Just know that whatever it is, eventually it's gonna change.
Yeah, and time is our gift, because sometimes I'll be like, okay, this like particular thing I'm experiencing right now is really hard and really yucky. Like just it not like it currently isn't, but I'm just saying, there
Right.
are things that are really hard and really yucky. And you're like, you want to get to it, like go through it and thrive. But I think sometimes you just have to like let time pass. Sometimes I'm like, I'm really excited to see what happens in 2 weeks because I'll be able to look back at that really yucky thing and see it for the gift that it was. So, time is just incredible for us.
It is so cool. You're like the yogi of Utah.
Maybe I'm drunk. We don't know. No.
I told you, Thrivesters. You never know what's going to come out of our mouth. It is hilarious. Any ending thoughts you want to share before I ask everybody how they can find you?
No, I just wanted to share like a lot of love with you. Like thank you for having me. Words. Well, can you feel it through the screen? I'm
I
not
do.
like a weird hippie girl at all. Like I'm not into those vibes, but I just wanted to share like a lot of love for you and a lot of gratitude. Like you create and hold spaces for a lot of people, and I hope you realize that. And so thank you for having me on your podcast. And even just like sometimes when I get your messages, well, every time I get your messages, but only sometimes you send them. Um, when I get your messages and you're like, I was just listening to your podcast, like I don't think you realize what that does for me. So please, like, keep being that beautiful light in the world.
My God, amazing. So, Thrivesters, with that, I'm going to recover and you're going to go out and thrive like you mean. Oh, wait, before I do that, where can people find you?
So on TikTok, it's Samantha Parker Show. I don't have the Samantha Parker over there. I don't know why. I think it's because I started a second TikTok account, So Samantha Parker Show on Instagram, the Samantha Parker, thesamanthaparker.com. And thanks for having me, Nancy.
Thanks for coming, Sam. I'm going to be listening to your podcast, Thrivesters. I'm going to throw a bunch of links in the show notes. Feel free to reach out to Samantha. She answers all of our own messages. I know that personally. And if this resonated with you, or if you're thinking about someone as you're listening to this, do them a solid and send them this podcast. And maybe that's your way. Maybe that's your way of handing them the phone, like Samantha's husband did for him. So with that, then go out there and thrive like you mean it. Peace out, Thrivesters.